Welcome back to Melodic Logic. In this episode, we're going to be listening to and discussing Ren's Money Game Part 3 from the 2023 album, Sick Boy. Let's get started. Now this will be my first time fully listening to Ren. I've never heard this song before. Ren was actually recommended by a couple of people within the comments, so I thought I would give it a try. I have heard most of Hi Ren, but I specifically haven't heard Money Game Part 3. The reason I chose this is because it seems a pretty safe song and a pretty great song that a lot of people recommend from a lot of the forums and boards and Reddit that I've read and paid attention to. So, never heard it, don't know anything about it, so this might go horribly wrong and it might get things terribly wrong. But what I want to pay attention to, because I know Ren is extremely talented on guitar, he is quite phenomenal, and I want to see how this song compares lyrically and musically to the rest, or at least to Hi Ren that I had heard before. So let's jump in. Okay. I like that sweep. I like how it's deep when the first few notes. Okay. That sounds a little troublesome. He does have a great voice. I love that chord progression.
Let me tell you a story about a boy named Jimmy. 1 year old and his first words were mine, mine, give me. 2 years old he was walking, 3 years old walking quickly. 4 years old he was running round the pavements of his city. 5 years old and his daddy told him, listen here son, you gotta learn to be a man he works for what he wants. 6 years old and he's reading, writing, top of the bunch. And when he's 7, his progression made him student number 1. 8 years old and he's praised for unusual grades. 9, his parents pay for private school to nurture the flame. 10, 11, 12, 13, he ascends and ascends. His daddy tells him, son, money is the means to all ends. 14, solving complex mathematic equations. At 15, IQ 150, still elevating. 16, he develops complex software code that detects weaknesses in cybersecurity protocol. 17, and he sells his vision, keeping a share. Not yet an adult, but he's practically a millionaire. 18, and his daddy tells him, now you're a man. This world don't give a damn about you, so take all that you can. 9.
All right, sorry. I got to go back because there's a lot that he's covered, and I won't go over all of it just for the sake of time, and I know me stopping and reflecting. But again, this is the first time I've heard it and even read it. So I'm trying to get an idea because I didn't want to spoil this by looking at any other user feedback and any other comments about the song. Several times this was listed as a favorite. And while I'm not a huge fan of like R&B and rap. And I know Ren isn't that, and I understand that he will cover pretty much all genres, and you can tell in this that that's the case even compared to Hi Ren. I won't go all through it, but I'm trying to pick out the idea of the story, right? Because we've basically started from age 1, and he says Jimmy comes out and mine, gimme. So he's very needy. There's another word I'm trying to think of that'll come to mind in just a minute. But yeah, it sounds like he's very needy or needs a lot of retention or requires. He needs these things and he doesn't know what he needs quite yet. So through the progression of the age, I like that Ren really did that. We're going from age 1 to now 15, 16. Oh, when did I stop? Yeah, so I stopped at 8 when he's at 18. So we're seeing this progression of somebody who's needy and he's apparently smart based on having an IQ of 150, yet he's still elevating. He's able to do complex mathematical skills. 12, 13 descends, he goes to a private school. He's praised for unusual grades, although it does indicate that he is the number one student. Student number 1, yeah, at the age of 7. And then I heard at some part that he's reading and writing at the top of the bunch. He goes to a private school, so his parents sounds like they're giving him the things that he needs to be in a worldview mind successful, right? As a parent, we want our kids to have everything that they need to be able to be successful. Now, what's interesting, let's see. At 15 IQ 101, they're still elevating. 16, he develops complex software code that detects weaknesses in protocols. Okay, weaknesses protocols. Okay, 17, and he sells his vision, keeping a share. So we just practically made him a millionaire. Okay, it's skipping some of this on the screen for some weird reason, but I see that. So he's practically a millionaire. So now he's at 17, he's a millionaire. 18, his daddy tells him, now you're a man. And I think that's where I stopped, because it sounded like we're starting to go into a different section of this song musically. I like how it is a very unique pattern in music, and it's kind of eerie, the piano chords and progression, but I do notice it's cool that he, again, not hearing this song, I already had an idea of where the chord progression was going in my mind and ended up doing it with the notes. And I tried to indicate that the second round through and going back up. There are some people that can listen to music and have an idea and an expectation of where it's supposed to go. Bands that typically do that and songs that typically do that tend to be hits. And that's because there's a natural progression that we have in our mind as we're listening to music of where something's going to go. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody and every band and every song sticks to a formula, but there is some sort of resemblance to that, and it makes it a lot more understandable and relatable to the listener. I'm going to quit ranting, but I like that he's done that so far. Okay, so we're at 18. Daddy says, now you're a man. That's interesting. I don't know if his father's being sincere or sarcastic. And maybe we'll find out as we go through this, because at 17, being a millionaire wouldn't make you necessarily a man. But I'll come back to that because I want to see where the rest of this goes. I don't want to speculate.
Daddy tells him, now you're a man. This world don't give a damn about you, so take all that you can. 19, he turns...
Okay. Maybe I did hear that a second. Let me make sure. Okay. 19, he turns profit, stocks, and shares, investment, or... No, I'm sorry. That's too far. Now you're a man. Nobody gives a damn about you, so take all that you can. Okay. So that's interesting. Depending on where you live, how you're brought up, the experiences that your parents have had, obviously that's going to pour down to their teachings as a parent. And maybe his dad has gone through something, experienced something personally or through the eyes of someone else, recognizing that people don't care about you and you need to do and take all that you can. Although that does then relate back to the very beginning with Jimmy saying, mine, gimme. So I don't know if his parents are supporting that yet. So take all that you can. I mean, depending on your age and experiences you've been through, that is a very valid statement. But I'm wondering if that information has also been provided as Jimmy was growing up. Well, okay, but I'll start back at 1982.
The profit, stocks and shares, invest in product. 20, double down deposit. 21, his income rockets. 22, he learns the truth is just an obstacle to wealth. If you manipulate the data, then the lie will sell itself. 23, a life of luxury, crystal and cocaine. 24, he makes the Forbes list, they're applauding his name. 25, and his daddy told him, listen here, son, while you're sitting in that palace, that don't mean that you won. 26, a business shift, he switches business to arms. He's 27, dealing nuclear and shells in Iran. 28, inside the Senate, money bought him a seat. He's 29, a role of counsel in the president's suite. And now he's 30, his daddy says you're losing the race. You're just a servant to the king, not even in second place. 31, a big maneuver for his daddy's approval. Moving imports over borders from the exports out of Cuba. 32, moving grams grown.
Sorry to stop real quick. Just the way he's talking, it almost sounds like he's being sarcastic as he's singing this, because it gets more deeper and almost like a slurred, sarcastic tone.
In kilos to tons, he's 33, filling warehouses with powder and guns. 34, turf war with nobody to stop it. Blind eye from the popo inside of his pocket. 35, he gets a call. I'm sorry, son, it's your father. Had a heart attack, I'm sorry, he's gone. 36, getting pissed off, abusing this product. 37, eyes glazed, disposition demonic.
Hang on a second. There's a lot to go back over through, but real quick, I'm just trying to make sure. Obviously, a lot has happened. He's become successful in politics and in trades. And even though he's got pretty much the world in his pocket, at 35 he gets a call. Your father's had a heart attack and he's gone. But what I don't understand, 36 getting pissed up, abusing his product. Okay. I'm gonna go back there. Start at 36.
And pissed off, abusing this product. 37, eyes glazed, disposition demonic. 38, with a prostitute, a moment of passion, heating up a silver spoon and then chasing the dragon. 39, getting reckless and hungry for power. Daddy's words still driving him to kill and devour. He makes a move against the cartel, but the strategy's flawed. They retaliate and leave him in a hospital ward. A bullet buried in his vertebra and one in his leg. The doctor sighs and says, I don't think he'll be walking again. Fuck.
Oh, what? Hold on. What? He had cartel, strategy flawed. They retaliated and leave him in a hospital ward. Okay. Bullet buried in the vertebrae in one of his leg. The doctor sighs and says, I don't think you'll be walking. All right, let me go back to they retaliate just to make sure I don't miss
retaliate and leave him in a hospital ward. A bullet buried in his vertebra and one in his leg. The doctor sighs and says, I don't think he'll be walking again. Fuck.
Ooh, yeah. Fart. Let's see. Yeah, you can tell there's an emotion.
Let me tell you a story about a boy named Jimmy. He was 40 and he cursed the words mine.
Hang on a second. That's awesome. I have chill bumps. Musically, we have gone through so much. If you were I want to do another video where I strip out the words of this and just listen to the music, because it starts out really well, really neat and almost tied with a bow. And then we as this story and Jimmy's life progresses, the music becomes somber and then chaotic and then more chaotic and then back somber. And then now obviously he's hitting rock bottom with the issues he's going through and what he's deciding to choose to do in life. And then we hear Ren just breathing. And then now we've completely changed. That is awesome. I'm going to go back to where that, right before that switches, the doctor sighs and says, I don't think you'll be walking again. Yeah, okay, so.
Let me tell you a story about a boy named
now we're not
Jimmy.
Just piano.
He was 40 and he cursed the words, mine, give me. 41, he wasn't walking. 42, not walking
Still
quickly.
say my mind, get me.
43, never running round the pavements of his city. 44, inside a palace with a mountain of gold. But those riches turn to rubble when perspective evolves. Weighing heavy on his conscience is the value of gold. Lamborghini for a life, trading money for souls. Jimmy followed the code inside the land of the free. Put your hand inside a cookie jar, take more than you need. And his example is exaggerated versions of me. And it's a version of him, and it's a version of she, and it's a version of you. There's no escaping the blame. The way we live is parasitic. Fuck the money and fame. Cut the music. This isn't entertainment. This is real life.
Yeah.
The way we live is lunacy, community, it declines. We're hyperpolarized, we're always fighting, then we divide. Truth is less important than the money that we design. Money's an invention, politics from our invention. They all come from people's ideas. Did I mention? Board is an invention, law and order fuel the tension. That leads to people killing each other. My solution is everything is subject to change. We could build utopias if individuals were taught to use their brains.
True.
If we teach kids in schools to always be sheep and put themselves before the herd, if there's more money for me, then there's no future I see where the humans survive. We're parasites inside the Petri dish with cannibal minds. Mold will grow upon the surface, then consumes till it dies. And our fate could be the same without this story to the wise. 40.
Okay. I'm not going to go over all those lyrics because, geez, this is incredible. But I love the fact, and our fate could be the same without the story to the wise. We're ending with that because, not ending the song, but, before we start to transition, we all know and have heard the phrase, history repeats itself. If we don't learn from our past mistakes, it's only going to get worse. The brilliancy in this song is that he's talking about how so many people are consumed by what they think they need. And life, as far as we are primarily concerned, is based upon giving everyone what they think they need. And that's not the case. We need to learn. And the fact he says we can live in a utopia if we just put ourselves first. Individuals, not ourselves, each individual. I mean that because he says we can build a utopia of individuals if individuals were taught to use. Let me go back to that.
We're taught to use their brains. If we teach kids in schools to always be sheep.
So he's recognizing that the world is in a really bad place, and that, in my opinion, people are consumed with consuming and being who they're not. When we could all live in a utopia if we just all got along and we worked for and towards the right things. And if we weren't, but if we teach kids in schools to always be sheep, then that means we're always going to be, if we're taught that from day one, then we're always going to be following somebody, something. We're going to not necessarily aspire, because that's a different terminology. If you aspire to be something for the positive, that's a benefit. If you aspire to be something just because others are doing that, or you are envious, and that's what you want to become, that's not happiness. That's not living in a utopia. This is... okay, I gotta let this finish. So let's... I'll pick up with, and our fate could be the same without the story and wise.
Without this story to the wise. 45.
Nice rain effect.
Jimmy comes home out of the rain, soaking wet upon a wheelchair. He's been drinking again. Maybe. He has everything he wants. He has fortune and fame. Such a fortunate fool with an unfortunate fate. With a 45 caliber aimed at his brain. 45 a fitting number cause his age is the same. Here's the words of his father. It's such a damn shame. Then he presses on the trigger of a money game.
Wow. Okay. Okay. This is great. So there is a lot in this song. Like I said earlier, I'd really like to listen to it melodically by taking out the words, just to hear the music. I have not done any research on this, but it does sound like there's, and especially in the beginning, there's a classical style melody. And just as we go throughout the song, there's so much that changes, not only lyrically for the story, but musically. We start out kind of slow, but a little bit of upbeat, and then as we're going through the storyline, it kind of coincides with the storyline, and then we get to a point where he's just, sounds like he's kind of had it, so he's just breathing, he's exhausted, and then we kick back up with the rest of how Jimmy's life has turned out. It's a phenomenal storytelling experience. I know this is part 3, and from what I understand, when you listen to Ren, some of his songs should be done in an order, whether it be from the album, from a song perspective, or even part of an experience. So I would almost consider doing part 1, 2, and 3 all together to see how they vary, how the story, if it changes, because I don't know if the first part and the second part are different characters and what the outcome from those perspectives are. But this is a very, very deep song. You can tell that there is a lot of thought that was put into it. Not just from the story, but how it's fully been composed and put together. It's incredible. I would want to go back and read all the words and talk to him line per line, but I like the idea of this story taking place from essentially day 1 or year 1 of a child till the no longer life of that person. And it's interesting the way that we see that this arc, it's a story arc, like what we see in movies and in TV series and what have you. But the fact that we start out somewhere, we end with something else, and there's an arc. That story arc is what the internal resolution is for that person. We can see through this particular story that looking at the words, he starts out and he's just like, mine, gimme. And I feel like, I don't know if it's from good intentions of the parent and the father wanting to give their child what they want without circumstances or limitations, or, how the parent just doesn't really want to be involved in a kid's life and just gives them what they want just to keep them quiet. Again, I'd have to do a little bit more research because it would kind of denote how the story turns out. But as we can see, this child, Jimmy, has been progressed throughout his life based upon the things that his father has said and allowed him to do, going to private school, studying, being a great mathematician, figuring out coding, selling his code, and his becoming a millionaire. And he's basically, when he becomes a millionaire, his dad, again, is saying that now you've become a man. But then he doesn't really, he does progress more after that. But it's still more of a selfish drive, right? Because I wanted to go back. There was a part where, and I'm trying to see if I may have heard or misunderstood. Not yet an adult, but he's practically a millionaire. 18, now you're a man, right? And he turns profit stocks, okay, so he doubles down. So he's obviously becoming more wealthy in what he's obtained, okay, and he learns the truth is just an obstacle to wealth. That's not a great line. It's a great line for the story, but not truth for real life. I mean, if you're a very selfish person, then sure, that might resonate with you. But in the holistic betterness of the world, which I think that this story is trying to portray, that's a confounding and profound line. He learns that truth is just an obstacle to wealth, but we know that it's not. If you manipulate the data, then a lie will sell itself. See, again, that's not a positive way to live. A life of luxury, and cocaine. Okay, so I got that part right in my own thinking. I didn't speak that out loud. Makes a Forbes list. Great. They applaud him. And his daddy tells him, listen here, son, while you were sitting in your place, that don't mean that you won. Oh, okay. So maybe his dad, as he's getting older, is now trying to portray to Jimmy that just because you're the top of anything doesn't mean that you've actually won. Or, if anybody's seen Talladega Nights, Ricky Bobby's dad was, that movie, he's fighting to get his father's approval. And I'm wondering if this has a similar context, meaning that the father is still not proud of what his son has accomplished. So maybe that drives him to push further because then the next statement is a business shift. He switches businesses to arms, dealing nuclear and shells in Iran. Inside the Senate, money bought him a seat. Okay, so he did become a politician for the most part and a role in the council and the president. Okay, all below being 30. So then his dad says, now he's 30, and his daddy says, you're losing the race. You're just a servant to the king, not even in second place. Oh, that is a gut punch. Because you got to think, you've been striving to be the best you can throughout your life. You've got this incredible IQ. You do fantastic in school. You sell a company, you become a millionaire, and your dad's like, well, okay, so now you're a man. Well, that's a little discerning, but somewhat positive. And then maybe as he's moving on and he sees that he's gathered all this wealth, he's doubling down, his dad's still like, well, that still doesn't mean you've won. And while you're continuing to progress in your life and you're now in the cabinet with the president, his father's saying, you're still losing the race. You're just a servant to the king, not even in second place. So it's like another gut punch. Is nothing that he's done enough validity for him to live a happy life? Because then that changes, right? Because a big maneuver for his daddy's approval, moving imports over borders from the exports out of Cuba, moving grams. Okay, we don't need to get into that. We know what that's implying. Because we do notice, there's a turf war. He gets into an issue. Things don't go so well, but then he gets a call. The doctor says pretty much that his father's had a heart attack and he's gone. So getting pissed, abusing his product because we know what product he's using. Eyes glazed, disposition is demonic. I'm not repeating that out loud. You know the lyrics. If not, go look it up. I want to be positive. Not that this isn't positive, because this is a learning in a real world instance, but still moving, getting reckless and hungry for power. Daddy's words still driving him to kill and devour. Yeah. So he makes a move against the cartel. We know he's not going to walk again. So what is this? Again, if we go back looking and talking about an arc for a person, we don't see, there's not a resolution for Jimmy. There's not an arc for Jimmy. He's always following this drive to have approval and acceptance from his dad. And now we know that that's not happening because his dad's no longer with him. And at that point, he's kind of given up. He's like, there's nothing else for me to do. I'm just going to make stupid decisions. I'm going to go try to take over the cartel. Things obviously aren't going to go right. And then I'm in a situation where I can no longer walk again. So then it just becomes this line of depression. He was 40, and he cursed the words, mine, mine, gimme. Great callback to the beginning. 41, he isn't walking. 42, not walking quickly. 43, again, I won't go through all of these, but the point is that he didn't become a better person. If anything, he realized that all of this stress and weight he put on his shoulders to have the approval of his father. And we can even take the father out of the overall context of this story, because not everybody, a lot of people want to do better. They aspire to be somebody better, regardless of whatever the circumstances. Be better than what their parents were, how they raised, or how their partner and friends and relationships. You kind of want to be a better person. Now, not everybody always does, because that can become compounded. You have one thing after another that can lead to depression and a whole snowball effect of a lot of other things. But the point is that we see that in this particular story, it doesn't improve. He's, again, come to a point where he hit the millionaire mark. Now he's part of the public eye in politics. And that's still not enough, because he's still not number one, considering, following his father's words. And he's realized that all of this time that he has spent in his life has essentially amounted to nothing, because we don't know. I would imagine if this story had a great arc, a positive arc, and it portrayed the benefits of all of the things that this person, Jimmy, had done with his money, with his power, there could be redeeming factors. But the way this is written, it's not. It's like this person has gone up and down, up and down. I mean, they've reached the greatest peak of their life. You would think when you become a millionaire that you would think your life is on the top. What else is there to do? Chill and be happy? The rest of my life is set. No, because we've still got the masses to appease, in this case, his father. So he goes for more. That's still not enough. For more. That's still not enough. Father's death. Now he's like, I have nothing more to fight for. I realize that everything that I've done, the successes that I've had, have not been beneficial to my life, and there's no point in living it any longer. Like, it's a very, very sad ending, but it's a poignant story for the fact that, and I think what Wren is trying to portray is we can't live realistically in happiness in a world where we are something that we're not. And we are trying to become and live a life that we think is going to be beneficial and applauded by others. And that's a profound statement, especially for somebody who is this popular musically, to be so blunt about how we live in society and what our expectations are. We learning to take credibility for ourselves and the things that we can accomplish because we want those for ourselves, not because of something else or another person. Yes, it's great to have motivation by others and family and loved ones, but that doesn't need to be the driving force to do that. And I think that he portrays that very, very well in this. It even specifically states in the words, this isn't entertainment. This is real life. And it's something that I see every day. Most of you probably do too. I know this has been a long video. I would actually really like to take the time to do another video and focus on the words, to dive into it a little bit deeper. But again, my first time not really having context to the words. Musically, it's gorgeous. Is it a song that's going to be number one because of its popularity of music? I got to find the right way to put this, because I do know that this album has won a ton of awards. What I'm trying to say is, from a music perspective, we have songs that have great hooks, great melodies, catchy. That's what I'm looking for, catchy. I've noticed that a lot of Ren's songs aren't catchy from the perspective of the standard template that we use and are accustomed to in music. But his words and the way that the music complements it is impressive. It is really, really impressive, and it is right in your face and honest. And I feel like that's something that we might need a little more of to get people back on track. We could live in utopia. We could all be happy if we just focused on the betterment of ourselves and the persons around us. In any case, I will definitely be listening to more Ren. I greatly appreciate those who have mentioned this in the comments. And we'll have to get back to it. What did you think? Have you heard this song before? Have you heard of Ren? Do you like his music? Do you like his style? It is impressive how musically talented he is. I'm pretty sure he played the piano in this, just as he does for the other instruments, as guitar specifically. It's impressive, the chord progression. In any case, what do you think? What did I miss? How do you personally interpret this? If you can go back and think about the first time you listened to it and all the times you've listened to it since, how does it make you feel? What do you love about this song? Let me know in the comments. Put it in the channel community. I want to talk about these things. I greatly appreciate this being recommended. I hope I did it some justice. Again, as a first-time raw listen, I try to do my best. It is a very profound song. Well, until next time, thank you so much for listening to Melodic Logic. Take care.